Cassie's husband finally breaks his silence on the Diddy case, and he is not holding back. Alex Fine has officially stepped into the spotlight, and he is showing up for Cassie in ways that are hard to ignore. This is not just a support system. This is a man standing 10 toes down beside his wife while she relives years of trauma in a courtroom. While Cassie testifies against her ex, Sean Diddy Combs, Fine is making it clear she is not doing this alone.
Who they? Who they? No, say who they. Say who they. Who they? Who they? Who they gonna beat them banks?
For those just catching up, Diddy is facing major federal charges, racketeering, trafficking, and more. But this trial is not just about the charges. It is about years of alleged control and manipulation that Cassie says she endured while with Diddy. And now, after years of silence, the truth is erupting in full view, raw, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. Let's talk about the moment that set the tone for this entire trial. Because the second Cassie walked into that courtroom, 8 months pregnant and ready to face everything head on, the whole atmosphere shifted. And here's the part that really set the tone. Because when Cassie took that stand, the feds didn't ease her into it. No special treatment, no soft landings. Diddy's legal team even tried to get her seated before the jury walked in, hoping to minimize her impact. But the judge shut it down instantly. She stood tall, physically and emotionally, carrying the weight of her past while fighting for her future. And for 3 straight days, she peeled back every layer of pain she had buried for years. And then, the moment her voice finally cut through the tension in that courtroom, everything stopped. The room fell completely silent. What came next hit even harder, because as soon as Cassie started talking about what really went on behind closed doors, the mood in the room turned cold. She exposed the twisted events she called freak-offs, ritualistic, high-end parties that Diddy allegedly planned and controlled. These weren't wild nights, they were psychological warfare. She didn't want to be there, but she didn't have a choice. Even when she was seeing other men like Kid Cudi, Diddy still expected her to show up and play her part. And when people ask why she didn't just say no, her answer says it all. It was my job. She was paid, filmed, and constantly under threat. One time on a flight, Diddy pulled out one of the explicit videos he'd recorded, didn't say a word, just showed it to her like a threat. The message couldn't have been clearer. Try to leave and I will destroy you. But the trauma wasn't just verbal, it turned physical, and the proof was undeniable. That's when the court watched what's now being called the tape that broke the courtroom. The 2016 surveillance footage showing Diddy chasing Cassie down a hallway and slamming her to the ground. And that was just the start. Then the courtroom took another hit, because when the prosecution rolled out a set of unreleased clips, the on screen was so jarring that the jury went completely still. Even Diddy looked blindsided. But Cassie, hands shaking, voice trembling, she kept going. Because this time she wasn't backing down. She was done being silent. And just when the courtroom thought it had heard the worst, Cassie peeled back another layer, another disturbing glimpse into the obsessive control Diddy allegedly held over her, revealing a world drenched in baby oil and built on brutality. Cassie said Diddy was obsessed with appearance, so much so that he allegedly demanded they use 10 bottles of baby oil a night during the freak-offs. If she wasn't glistening enough, he would stop everything and make them reapply. This wasn't a one-time thing either. Prosecutors said they found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil when they raided his home, backing up just how extreme and calculated it all was. Diddy choreographed every detail, the lighting, the timing, even which escorts showed up, like it was one of his music videos. But Cassie said it didn't feel like performance art. It felt like she was trapped on a set she couldn't leave, forced to play a part in a script she never agreed to. But Diddy's control went even further. Cassie explained how they created fake identities, wore masks, and used Craigslist to recruit strangers for these setups. She went by Jackie Jackie Star, and Diddy called himself Frank Black or sometimes Frank White. They hid behind those characters, pretending it was all just roleplay. But looking back now, Cassie made it clear. There was nothing fun or theatrical about it. It was calculated, it was dark, and it was terrifying. She even tried to avoid the setups by saying she was ovulating, hoping it would buy her some space. But Diddy didn't care. He pushed anyway, brushing it off with a casual question, asking if they could kiss a lot. That one question spiraled into 10 hours of horror she couldn't escape. Cassie didn't stay quiet because she was okay with what was happening. She stayed quiet because deep down, she feared for her life. And even with all that, Cassie didn't try to clean up the narrative. She openly admitted she went with Diddy to swinger clubs. She stood in those rooms, watched what he did, took it all in, and owned her part in it, no matter how messy it looked or how bad it might have made her seem. That brutal honesty made her testimony land harder than any legal strategy ever could. Then came the images, and they were brutal. Photos showing the kind of violence no one wanted to believe. Cassie with bruised cheeks, a black eye hidden beneath her hair, and a shot of her naked and unconscious in a hotel bathtub while Diddy and another man stood over her in a panic. These weren't just stills, they were proof of what she'd lived through. Back when she first started pushing back, Cassie said Diddy's aggression got even worse. After that, she gave up on fighting it because every time she did, the punishment hit harder. It just wasn't worth it anymore. But Diddy's need for control didn't stop with the freak-offs. It bled into every part of Cassie's life. She testified that whenever he got suspicious or angry, especially about other men, he'd take her phone, her passport, even her watch, just to remind her who was in charge. In one incident from 2016, Cassie said he grabbed her phone during an argument, jumped out of the car, and used it to call the NFL player she had been dating. She wasn't even allowed to have privacy, let alone freedom. That kind of emotional punishment wasn't occasional, it was non-stop. The jealousy, the possessiveness, the way he always had eyes on her, it became part of her everyday life. Cassie wasn't just in a toxic relationship. She was trapped. No space, no privacy, no freedom. Just when it seemed things couldn't get more disturbing, the court played a 2014 recording of Cassie confronting a man who claimed to have a private video of her. She believed he had secretly filmed her and Diddy during a freak-off. When she told Diddy, he brushed it off and said he'd handle it. But to Cassie, the damage was already done. Another reminder that her life was never fully her own. That fear stuck with her. It kept growing, piling on day by day, until eventually it broke her down completely. That breaking point finally led her to seek real help. In 2023, Cassie checked herself into Willow House for 45 days of inpatient treatment. There, she received intense PTSD therapy, like EMDR and neurofeedback, to help her unpack everything she had buried for years. It was also during that stay that she started writing her book, and despite what the defense tried to push, she made it clear she wasn't treated for compulsion or love addiction. She was there for the trauma. Trauma from a relationship that felt more like a prison than a partnership, and text messages shown in court made it even clearer. One from March 2016 read, "When you get f***ed up the wrong way, you always want to show me that you have the power and you knock me around. I'm not a rag doll, I'm someone's child." In another from earlier that year, Diddy wrote, "I hate Kay, so you let me know when. Plus, don't be mad and think that's all I want to do," referring to his dislike of ketamine use during freak-offs. One of the most telling moments came from a 2010 text exchange. Cassie tried to bring up the freak-offs, hinting that she wanted to talk about setting some boundaries. But before she could even finish, Diddy cut her off and assumed the worst. "Now you don't want to do it anymore," he texted. "You so predictable." That was his reaction to her trying to set boundaries. Defensive, dismissive, dominating. Just days after the brutal Intercontinental Hotel altercation in 2016, Diddy messaged her like nothing had happened, already trying to hook up again. He wrote, "I felt that way from Friday." He added, "What are you doing?" And that's how it always went. He would hurt her, then circle right back like nothing ever happened, expecting her to fall back into his arms. But soon enough, Cassie was done. Cassie told Alex she didn't think he needed her anymore. At one of her lowest points, she tried to walk into traffic, convinced she was broken, but Alex stopped her, held her, and reminded her she was still worth loving. That moment didn't make headlines, but it saved her life and reminded everyone just how deep this trauma really runs. Back in 2019, Alex Fine ran 50 miles to raise awareness for domestic And right there at the finish line was Cassie. The way they hugged, tight, emotional, like they'd been through hell together, said everything. It wasn't just love, it was survival. You could see the pain, the strength, and the bond that held them up.
Can't believe you did that. 50 G's.
I heard you ran 10.
I forgot. And then I biked some.
God.
I threw my bike in the back.
Can't believe it.
Human mind is an amazing thing. Think you can't do things that we could be.
You guys, I think we should get him on.
Now it's clear why so many people call Alex the blueprint. He is not just Cassie's husband, he's her safe place. He's been through this before. His mom survived too. That's why he showed up for Cassie the way he did. He didn't flinch once. He stood front row in that courtroom, locked eyes with Diddy, and stayed silent but strong, grounded, present, and unshakable. One fan summed it up perfectly. That poor man must be holding in so much anger, and yet he kept it together, calm, steady, and right there for Cassie the entire time. Another fan added, Alex was the one who helped Cassie escape. Her daughters will look back and know their parents were heroes. This love story was never about headlines or drama. It's about healing. Cassie didn't go looking for someone to show off. She found safety, peace, and a love rooted in freedom, not control. At home, it's a whole new world now. Cassie and Alex have daughters, Frankie and Sunny, with a baby boy on the way. Their house is full of laughter instead of fear, calm instead of chaos. Meanwhile, in Diddy's corner, things were unraveling. Diddy's mom, Janice, and his kids showed up in court that day trying to keep it together. They smiled, waved, one even blew a kiss like it was all normal. Then the male escort took the stand and the vibe shifted instantly. Diddy's daughters couldn't sit through it. One grabbed her jacket, another covered her mouth, one just stared, completely stunned. They walked out, came back, then left again, possibly overwhelmed by what they were hearing. That polished image didn't just slip, it shattered. The jury stayed straight-faced through most of it until the defense made one major mistake. When they alleged Cassie might have enjoyed it, the energy shifted fast. Arms folded, eyes rolled, they looked done. The biggest change might be just around the corner as the industry holds its breath and Cassie's bravery starts a ripple effect that could shake everything. For years, Diddy was untouchable, running bad boy records, making hits and leading fashion. But behind the shine, there was fear and control. Some collaborators mentioned NDAs, secret payoffs, and quiet warnings. This wasn't just Cassie's experience, it was systemic. Everyone's watching now, waiting to see who will speak up and who will stay quiet. Big names like Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, and French Montana, who've worked with Diddy for years, still haven't said a word. And that silence, it's deafening. Some of Diddy's proteges, Day 26, Danity Kane, have dropped hints about manipulation. Aubrey O'Day's cryptic posts are getting new eyes. Cassie's story might be the tipping point, but the rot goes deep. If the jury sides with her, this case won't just change the law, it'll shake the culture. Guys, this could spark a whole new wave of testimonies. Behind the scenes, former dancers and assistants are supposedly talking to lawyers. The court's only scratched the surface so far. Cassie's story has outgrown Diddy. It's become a symbol of survival, of truth replacing silence. And Alex, he's not just there, he's part of her healing. The impact is already clear, and what comes next could be the moment the whole industry finally cracks. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to keep up with Cassie Ventura and Alex Fine's fight. This case is just heating up, and you don't want to miss what's next.